115 units are going to be put on the triangle lot. I'm pulling up the plans right now, and I'll drop that in the chat. But about a couple weeks ago, the developer, we asked the developer for a heads up when they're actually planning to break ground, because it's kind of been any day now for 10 years. I was told it'll be about 3-4 weeks, and I haven't heard back from them since. And I know we have some concerns with the environmental report that we never received. What we've been told is that everything is kosher, and there's no need for remediation given that they've amended the plans to not dig. But beyond that, we don't have a copy of the report that the developer will not provide. But for right now, what they're looking to put in that spot is 115 units.
And just going to jump in quickly, Evan, and add that we're hoping to get more information and that environmental report, but they are not legally obligated to share it with us. There's no agreement we have that says they have to share it. So while we hope that they share it in, the just being honest, good neighbors and transparency, they are not actually required to. So as much as we have been getting a lot of pushback from the neighborhood to get it from them, we are asking. That's kind of the limit of what the zoning committee is capable of doing at this point.
Thank you for clarifying that, Megan. I really appreciate it.
and as CA, we decided that we were going to put in some right to know requests to the city, because they probably did apply through certain city agencies and had to release records to them. So we're going to see if any of those city agencies have anything that we can get our hands on through the city instead of through the developer. So that's being done on our end. Is I'm putting in some right to know requests through certain city agencies that might have anything. Sorry about my messed up internet. I don't know what's going
on. How many parking spots are they asking to be put into this here with the 115 units? Do we know?
Well, they're not asking anything. They have all their permits, everything at this point is by right. I just shared the plans in the chat, but I know it's hard to read. It's really tiny. I'm trying to make it bigger on my screen to see what it says. I would say don't quote me on this. I think I think it's in excess of 35. I just don't know the exact number, and I don't want to give you the wrong one. I want to say 50, but it might be less than that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the answer, Jeanette, is that they're doing more than they're actually legally obligated to do. So it's nothing that would have triggered a variance.
Right. The reason I don't know is because there was nothing that came for a variance because it was all by right.
Okay. Yeah, and for anyone who's new, we should note that this has been
like 10 years.
Yeah, a 10-year project. And at this point, the plans are approved by the city. There is nothing left to vote on. They have all the permissions they need to build the plans that you'll see from Evan. And if you have any questions at all about the triangle lot, Evan and I are more than happy to have a phone call, chat, et cetera, whatever, because it's been a 10-year project. It's not a 5-minute answer. But please don't hesitate to reach out if you are interested in knowing more about it. What everyone should know now is that people use it as a dog lot. It's technically privately owned, and any day they could break ground. And that's kind of the most information we really have accessible.
And Megan, just as an aside, this could be to Evan as well. So when they do break ground, do you know when all of those perimeter cars would then need to be moved?
I would say when I was last in contact, I asked him to at least paper the cars a week or two in advance so that people have an opportunity to move them. But beyond that, they are parked on private property. Is the unfortunate answer. I don't know if you had a separate answer than that.
No, just that the builder has told us that they would post signs. That being said, signs have been posted previously, and then they haven't really kind of started. And signs have fallen down because of weather. So, our official answer is you are parking at your own risk. If you are parking on that, it is private property. You're technically on where a sidewalk would be. Even though it's tempting because the spaces are there, you are doing it at your own risk. He doesn't have to, although he does plan on giving notice. But again, I'm sure if there was an emergency and push came to shove and he couldn't give 2 weeks notice, he's going to have to do what he's going to have to do to start his project.
And he was able to give us notice. He did say that he was going to be starting within the next 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's told us that he's going to start. So consider this notice. But, you know, and he has told us that he put posted written notice. But again, he did that a while ago, like 2 months ago. Weather happened. The signs are not there anymore.
Oh,
Saying that,
I didn't even see the 2 months ago signs, and I'm by there all the time.
Yeah, they were on 19th Street, like halfway down the gate. And it was like, you know, just the signage you normally see that says, these are our permits for construction. But it lasted like a week and then was gone.
Okay, I have a question. 2 other developers pulled out of that project because of the contaminants in the ground. And now this guy is saying that the contaminants are limited into a certain area. How is it that 2 other developers test the same soil and the 2 other ones got the same answer and this guy got a different answer? And when he do plan to break ground, is he gonna cover that soil that he's removing out of there to keep people healthy from inhaling those contaminants that's in that ground?
You want me to answer this, Evan?
I was just saying, I can take it, but if you have a good answer, I leave it to you.
It's probably the same.
So I say it's not a good answer. Unfortunately,
I actually have a question too, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second, Miguel. Let me just
answer first, and then Miguel, you can answer, and then like this is a good segue for Russell, who we have on. So what we as residents can do.
So Rochelle, I would say I agree with you. You know, the fact that there were 2 other developers that pulled out because of environmental issues, and the new guy is saying that he has a report that says it's clean, but has neglected to send the report to us, definitely raises red flags. The unfortunate reality is that it's a by right project, which is why it never even came to the zoning committee or came before us for a vote like you would traditionally see, which would result in the refusals, which would mean I'd be able to tell you exactly how many parking spaces it is, because I would have, for instance, gotten that report, but it didn't happen because it's a by right project. And with regards to construction issues with them kicking up the dirt that, you know, could potentially have lead in it, again, I agree with you, and I think we should, you know, try and make it as clear to him as possible that he needs to take all, you know, possible steps to remediate. But the unfortunate reality is we don't have any legal rights to that, to demand anything beyond what is code or the ability to mitigate this ourselves.
Also,
Megan, I don't know if you.
So let me get this right.
wait,
Hey,
Miguel,
Megan,
1 second.
can I just state my my
Miguel,
point?
Well, I want to give everyone the rest of the information, Miguel, so I'm not trying to
but
cut
I mean,
you off.
I've been waiting for, you know, to have a word, and I know you're chairing this project, right?
Yes.
It looks like you feel offended when you're asked with questions, and
Miguel,
I have to be
Miguel,
upfront
let's
with
give
this. Yes,
some
you
more.
do. Yes, you do.
Miguel,
Look,
let's give some more
If
information
you're trying
first.
to say that our health, right, is not important and that this project is more important, you're completely wrong. And let me tell you, there is more people that knows about this site than what you know. Every time that I put a point, you have something to say in the behalf of the developers. It seems to me like we're bending over to these people just because. You know, explain to me, what did you try to say in that newsletter? What is saying that, you know, some of the information is not being shared with the community? What does that mean? It means that we don't care. I mean, we don't count in the community. Now, maybe receiving $20,000 is something positive for you as a group. Is that what it is?
No, Miguel, can anyone hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
We can hear you.
So Miguel, we were just sharing the information that we were given. We asked the developers multiple times for the reports because we are residents as well and we are concerned as well. So me putting that in was just relaying the information that we were given from the developer. This project is a little bit different than past projects that were there because they are going to cement over a lot of the dirt. So they are actually digging a lot less than the past projects
so if
that
they're
were
going to
going
be
to be
clear
there.
and straightforward, why don't they want to share important information for us? You know,
Because
like I
they
said,
don't
we're receiving
have to.
$20,000 from them, and now we're sharing, you know, pom-poms at the end line. That's how
Miguel,
we look like.
I totally relate and I totally empathize because I'm a resident as well. And I take my daughter to that playground and I am concerned as well, which is why we're putting in the right to know requests to see if there is any city records that we can get those reports, but they don't have to release them to us. And they
Well,
went
I
through
think we
all
have
of
the
the
right as
steps already.
citizens to put opposition to a project
Well,
like this.
Miguel,
because
you would
our
have as
health
much
is
right
in
as
the
we
line.
would. I would encourage you to reach out to
And that's
your
what I'm doing.
councilman's
And
office
Yeah,
and
and
seek to
that's
obtain
how
those
I
reports.
And
responded
that's
to
what
your
I'm
email as
doing.
well,
Believe me.
Miguel.
I know, but
Yeah.
you're asking us for the reports and you didn't ask, we don't have them.
We
The-
don't
the-
have them. We are releasing all of the information that
Well,
we
no,
as
but you
UFCA
will
have.
put in place and you're taking this position, right, to be the face of the community. And let me tell you, the community has no face. This is how it has been for the long time, right? Like you think you know what's going on and what happened before. You heard the other person before me stating the concerns. And for you, you just say anything about, you know that there is land.
I'm
Miguel,
sorry,
you're kind of
you're
breaking up a
cutting
little
off.
bit
Miguel,
there.
you're breaking up a little bit, but
So I think that this is actually a really good transition to Russell. We do have someone on the line who works for the Clean Air Act. And so why don't we have him talk a little bit about what we as residents can do? Because we as UFCA agree, we are concerned as well, which is why we have brought this up in multiple meetings, why we've asked the developer for the reports, why we're putting in right to know requests. Because we too are neighbors and we are concerned and we have the same concerns. I have the exact same concerns that past developers have said there is more contaminants. They wouldn't release their reports either. We asked those developers for their reports. And so we as an organization we are in total agreement, Miguel, that we are concerned as well. And we are trying our best to get those reports, but there's only so much we can do. We've asked multiple times. We are asking city organizations now. I saw in the chat that Russell says that's probably not going to get anywhere. So why don't I transfer this over now? Russell, do you want to introduce yourself?
But Amanda, wait a
Yeah.
minute. The past developers, the ones that passed it up, they did inform us how far the contaminants, the lead went down in the ground, and they told us exactly the percentage of the lot that was contaminated.
Yeah.
So in the past, we were told that is at least 80% of the lot is contaminated, and they told us how far it went, the contaminants went down.
Yeah, I remember when we said that.
9 years. I was here when that factory burnt down. And I was here when it was a factory. And that whole entire building is in that ground with the chemicals that fought the fire. It was a chemical fire that burnt for days. We were here. We know that lot is contaminated.
Rochelle, I am totally with you and I agree. And I know that the plans for this one, they are doing something different. The one way to mitigate lead or contaminants in the ground is to pave over it. That is like a approved way to deal with contaminants. And these plans are different than the ones from the past. And so they are cementing over most of the land, but I'm with you. I agree. There are contaminants in the ground and I don't know why this is saying something different, but the past developer too, even though he told us that, we asked him for the full report to see it and he would not release his report either. And so what this developer has said is that it's 10%. So I don't know Megan, if you want to give more information specifically on like the mitigation efforts that this developer has explained, but as UFCA, there's really we are just messengers of information and we are trying to get the same information. And that's why when Russell reached out to me, I thought it would be great to have him on as well. So to see what more we as residents can do, because the construction is going to happen. So while it happens, what can we as residents do? There's no way for us to stop it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add quickly that this project is by right. The city, they have almost definitely had to give this information to the city. There is no way they are going to be able to build without there being, to some extent, and I'm not saying it's great, I'm not saying it's perfect, I'm not saying I'm an advocate for it, but for city oversight, right? And so call 311. If you are concerned, call 911 if you see a violation. They have to do it the legal way. Like, that's not an option. And if you see it, report it. Number two, what we should also remember, and we only have a small slice of the money that went out. So I recommend you advocate to all of the neighborhood groups to work together, because the original CBA, which is the agreement, the community benefits agreement that went to the original project on this lot, which this current building iteration most resembles compared to anyone else we've seen. That community benefits agreement gave $250,000 so that if that playground got contaminated, that is the project listed in theory, although it's just a recommendation as to where that money should go. So when we want to talk about where our pie goes, I recommend that everyone on this meeting also go to the other community neighborhood groups and demand to know where their parts of the pies are going, because we have a 1/10. 1/10 of the money this community is seeing is coming to us. The rest of it is going to other community groups. So I recommend go and advocate. If your concern is the playground, my concern is the playground. I've got 3 kids. You better believe, you want to know what I think that money should be used for? Nothing until we know the playground is not contaminated, right? And go advocate. There's 3 groups. Go advocate to them all. That's what each of us can do.
Well, I thought all the money was supposed to go to the playground anyway.
A portion of the money went to the Moroccos, a portion of the money went to us, and the majority of the money went to FNDC.
The way the community benefits.
The original plan was for the money to be put for the redevelopment to help redevelop the playground.
You are correct, Rochelle. So the money in the CBA agreement goes to a specific organization, or in this case, it got split among 3 specific organizations for use as deemed by the organization, with the recommendation that it be the playground.
So why
the other community group, their previous, if I could just finish, their previous statement was that the playground is newer and has been redeveloped, has been redone in these past 10 years, and that is not their priority anymore. So take with that what you want. The community benefits agreement is not ironclad. They don't have to use it for the playground. They had to give it to the community organizations. The developer has done that. So now it's up to the community organizations to spend.
I have a question. Y'all said the community. What the hell is the community? Excuse my language, but it's like, you see how we in this meeting. Where's everybody else in this meeting? I mean, everybody come together when they want to protest for a dog park on 15th and Parish. Everybody come together when it's something beneficial for them. But my thing is, like, I'm trying to figure out what is the community. We barely can get anybody to come into this meeting. We barely get anybody to vote. But when it comes to certain specific things, I mean, it's 1,000 signatures, 2,000 signatures for a dog park. I mean, y'all can do that stuff. I'm trying to figure out why in this community are y'all keep allowing people to build and develop. To me, it's like it's so gentrified. Like I'm just trying to figure out what can we do? What can I do in the community or help other people in the community stop the building? Period. Like it's too much. A lot of these buildings are too high. Then it's like y'all pushing the Black people out. It's like, and then you got the kids out here going crazy. So y'all saying community, and then y'all saying the money not for the park. What newer playground? What playground is newer about this playground? Clemente playground was better than this playground. What is new about this playground? Because they put a jungle gym up, took the train down. It's like, like I'm trying to figure out, we got a wall right here that need to be painted. It's stuff that need to be done in this community, not just for the children too. Y'all worry about building and keep letting them build and letting them come in and build. But what about the kids? What about the children? That's my main concern. This is a community, right? The children are part of the community as well. When can we really get a say so in something? When can we really come together and vote and stop the people from building and coming in? Y'all won't stop that though.
It's more dogs in the neighborhood than kids.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So I just want to bring it back a little bit because we only.
Is a mess. That playground is one of the oldest playgrounds in the city. It dates back to 1926 or 29, something like that. The building is the original building from when it was built. The grounds are not kept up. The plumbing is a mess in the playground. That playground, they just put a facade. All they did was broke up the gym set and spread it out. They didn't do any type of work in that playground. And they added a swing. They removed the swings that was there and replaced the swing. That's it. The grounds on the playground need to be redone. The toys and stuff for the kids to play on need to be redone. You can't even go over there and ask to borrow a basketball to go play basketball because they don't have any. You can't ask to borrow a tennis racket to play tennis or a wall ball or anything because they don't have any equipment over there. You can barely find a bench to sit on. That
So
playground,
Michelle,
a lot of
what I hear the community saying is that they want UFCA to put their portion to the playground, and I'm happy to do that. We did ask
Not
people
just
in the community to let us know.
everybody needs.
Yeah, but we can't control
Not just-
everybody. I wish we could, but we are only in control of the portion that we got. And so I'm happy to advocate, and I have
Money should be
advocated.
used for what it was originally, what it was supposed to have been spent on.
And
I
the
hear
portion
you.
we have
I hear
control
you, but
over, we want to
unfortunately,
do
we
that.
only have control over the portion that we were given. And so the Morocco's was given a portion too. So Rochelle, I know that we can combine our efforts and put those efforts to the playground, but we have no control over what FNDC does with their portion of the community benefits agreement. We can advocate, and we can fill out, if that's what we're saying, we can fill out like a signature thing in order to get signatures saying that we
Petition.
25 of us that's what we want the money to go to, and advocate for that. Unfortunately, we only have control over what we have control over.
Can I have a question? So what can we do to get not just y'all, because I'm not just coming at you guys, but who can we speak to, or like who can we talk to get more going on in this community and stop a lot of things from going on? Because it seems like my voice ain't being heard. A lot of people's voices is not being heard, or we just being brushed off to the side. And I feel like, what is we speaking for if we're not going to be heard? What is the point of us saying anything if we're not going to be heard, if things are not going to be done? Or this is our community. If this is our community, supposed to stick together, and the community is supposed to come together and listen, and we vote on things. It seems like that's not it. I'm just not understanding. I'm not just saying y'all, but y'all can't control other people. But it's like,
I in full transparency, we are a volunteer organization, and so we try to do what we can. So get more involved. Email me. We can start a committee if there's a group that wants to advocate for something. I'm happy to help. But we only can do what we can do. I know that the Moroccos are meeting with Daryl Clark on June 14th at 3 p.m. at the Rec Center. I invite you all to attend and make your voices heard there. Daryl Clark will be there. So why don't we, if you can, attend that? I am passing on the invitation to all of you. And because we can really only do what we can do. We only have a portion of the money. And I would love to advocate for what the community, and the community being Francisville, right? So we're talking Girard to Fairmount, from Corinthian to Broad. That is what we're talking about when we say community. And yes, I would love more people to be on this meeting. And so tell other people about this meeting. I've always wanted to do a door-to-door, and then COVID happened, and then nobody ever wanted to go with me. So if you want to come out door-to-door to tell people about this meeting, I would love to see more people on this meeting, so we can hear more voices and advocate. We can start more petitions for what we're looking for. Unfortunately, a lot of things do cost money, and we are a completely volunteer run, incredibly low budget, no money coming in organization. So there's not much we can do in terms of starting programming, but we can advocate. People are power, right? And so the more people we get involved with UFCA, coming to these meetings, emailing, having their voices heard, I'm happy to start a petition to pass it around and pass that on to Daryl Clark. I do have a relationship with Mary Jones, who is our kind of like community liaison with Daryl Clark. And so I'm happy to pass on petitions and things where the community is saying what they want. Unfortunately, in terms of zoning, there are differences in zoning and how zoning works and planning works. And there are things that are by right, and there are things where they need variances. And so depending on not to get too in the weeds of zoning, but depending on how different lots are zoned, developers can build up to a certain point on what that lot is zoned. If it's by right, that means they can do basically anything they want up to what that lot is zoned as, and it will never come to us for a vote. They only need to come to us for a vote if there is a variance, if they are doing something above and beyond what that zoning for that lot permits. So unfortunately, we don't have much say in what gets built if it is by right. As a good neighbor, they should be coming to us. And if we see things that are up on construction and things happening, definitely reach out to us if there's things happening that we don't like, and we can advocate. But unfortunately, there's no way that we can vote and send that vote to the ZBA, to the zoning board, unless there's a variance, unless they're doing something above and beyond what is allowed on that lot. So again, there's really kind of like limited control that we have as UFCI, as an RCO in the community. But please, 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 I would love to see like 500 people in our meetings so that we can actually have a consensus on what the community is looking for. And I hear a really strong push for more youth programming, and I would love to be more involved with that. And Nini, if you want to reach out to me, we can I can help point you in a direction, and we can kind of combine resources and find other people and who we can advocate to for that. I think that's a great kind of place to start, but we are
Amanda, we spoke before through email. We supposed to go out and, get some tea.
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry, we
and
keep going back and forth.
right.
We're gonna do this.
Right. So that's me basically.
Okay,
my
cool.
grandmother was
So we will
involved in the
confirm a
community.
time, and now that I know kind of where your passion lies, we'll figure something out. We can figure out what we can do, but there are kind of like limitations to what UFCA can do. In matter of time, I just want to pass this over because we do have one zoning project that does have a variance. So we do have a little bit of say in this. And so they're going to present their project. I'm going to pass it over to Evan so they can present their project, and then we can vote on the variances of that project. And that's where we can have a voice.
Thank you. This is a good time to point out that how much work Amanda does do, given our, we are 4 people on the board for UFCA and have been looking for more for a long time now. And there's still open positions for anybody that wants to get involved. With regards to zoning, I have Henry here and Gary Wolf to talk about 1929 George Street. They're looking to build a building, and the variance they're looking for is there's a required 7-foot setback for the rear yard, and they're proposing 5 feet. And they're also proposing an off-street parking space for single-family use as well. Henry, if there's anything I missed, please let me know, but I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Evan. I appreciate it. And thank you, Amanda. Can I share my screen and I'll walk through the presentation, Evan?
Yes, please do.
It just says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Amanda.
I'm going to try. My computer's not working, so I moved to my phone. Let me see what I can do.
Henry, if you want to give it a try again, it may be working.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Amanda, did,
On my end, it says that anyone can screen share. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, and so Henry, it shows on the screen that you have started screen sharing, but it doesn't look like you are projecting anything yet.
no. Well, it says I'm screen sharing and I don't have anything on my screen either. So can you take it back, Amanda, and do it again because something happened in the transition?
I think you need to,
You need to unshare. I'm
yeah,
not
unshare.
sharing.
If you hit the share screen button on the bottom bar, it should disconnect you, and then you can hit it again and choose your window.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
All right,
can.
great. All right, thanks a lot, Amanda. Appreciate it. So sorry about that sunlight in the background here, but good evening, everyone. My name's Henry Clinton. I'm here on behalf of the owner, Sunil Shah, S-H-A-H, who is on the call. And with me is the architect for this project, Gary Wolf. So I'm going to walk through the presentation, then I'll open the floor up for questions. This is my table of contents, and I'll walk through each of the documents. This is the notice I had to send out to all the neighbors within 250 feet of the project, and the project is on the 1900 block of George Street. And our zoning board hearing is July 20th at 2 o'clock, and that also will be conducted via Zoom. These are all the addresses that I notified of this evening's meeting: Poplar Street, Gerard Street, George Street. This is our application for appeal that we had to file with our documents. And this is the refusal. This is what Evan mentioned early on. After we submit our project to L&I, if there are no issues with the project, in other words, if it conforms with the code, then the L&I examiner issues what's called a by right permit, which was, I guess, happened with the other project you were talking about on the triangle. But when we applied for our project, we got a refusal. And the reason we got a refusal was what Evan pointed out is typically if you have a parking spot or parking space you want, it should be access to the property from an alleyway or a rear street or a shared driveway. As I'll show you from aerial photographs, George Street does not have any on-street parking, and it's a one-way westbound street, and there are other existing parking spaces and garages on the block. That's one refusal. The second refusal is the code requires a minimum rear yard depth of 7 feet. And because of the smallness, the small nature of the lot, we're asking for 5 feet, which is consistent with other properties on that side of the street. This is the deed indicating that my client owns the property. This is the zoning map. This is RSA 5. Again, that means single family. And you can see the lot situated about in the middle of the block. And then here's some aerial photographs. Again, just to give you a perspective of the block, the lot is here. We're looking north. This is Poplar Street and Cambridge Street. And you can see that there's other existing parking spaces. In fact, I was before this very community group on this project, which was designed by the same architect. And basically the home that we're proposing today is a mirror image of the existing previously approved property on George Street. Again, another perspective, this time we're looking west. And I had this photograph to show you that there's also parking on the rear of some of the properties on Poplar Street, as well as on the rear of some of the properties on Cambridge Street. And there's some properties on George Street that have parking in the front also. Again, just some perspective photographs looking westbound and showing you the narrowness of the street, no on-street parking. You can see to the left, this is the rear of Poplar Street. There's fences, cyclone fences for open air parking spaces. There's the project I told you about. I was before this very community group probably 1.5 to 2 years ago. And that has a front loaded garage That's what we're asking for tonight. These are the plans. And what I'll do, I'm going to introduce Gary Wolf, the architect, and I'll have him walk through, and I'll be the MC and just page through as he speaks to how the project is laid out. Gary, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thanks, Hank. You can see here that we're trying to utilize, this uniquely small lot, trying to utilize the space as best as possible. Like as Hank said, we're going to incorporate that one parking space to, be about the same as one street parking space. So that's, that's just, and you go from here, you can see the massing here from the aerial perspective. Some site photos. This here shows the zoning map and the deed dimensions from city data. You can see the unique constrictions of the lot. This is the zoning plan of the lot that shows the site dimensions, shows the building dimensions, and everything that we're proposing.
Yeah, so Gary, on this, we have a width of 16 feet in the front, right?
That's
And
correct.
what's the total depth of the lot?
Total depth of the lot is 34 feet, 5.5 inches. And
Right, so not a very deep lot, and then we're
No.
going for a 5-foot rear yard with a parking space here, and then a set of spiral stairs leading up to the rooftop deck.
Right, and we talked about that at the preliminary hearing, that part of the reason for that is to kind of eliminate any obstruction of views or anything. So we won't have a pilot house up there. It'll just be from the 3rd floor up, it'll just be a spiral stair. There won't be any additional height there.
That's a good point. And this is the floor plan.
Yes. Yeah. So you can see the general
So in the
layout of the
basement,
building.
you'll have a full bath. You'll have stairs leading up to the 1st floor. You'll have your mechanicals, washer and dryer. Your garage on the 1st floor, that eats up basically the entire 1st floor just about, doesn't it, Gary?
Correct. So that's most of the reason for the 4 stories is because of that. But to get a usable, a nice home layout.
Then the 2nd floor is your living area with your kitchen. 3rd
Correct.
floor, you have 2 bedrooms. 4th floor is the master. And as you say, Gary, here's the internal, well, it's not inside the building, you're outside the
Right.
building. You have to go through a door to get to the spiral staircase to get up to the top floor.
Correct. Yeah, but my point was that it adds no additional height to the building. So yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
There's no pilot house jutting out, which is going to affect anybody's view.
Exactly.
And this is just a cutaway surface, so we don't have any issues with exceeding the height requirements. We're within code on that. So we did not get a refusal on that issue.
Yes. Yeah.
Henry, this is Steve Klein. I live on George Street. I can't see from your drawing, but what is the total height?
That would be the 38 maximum.
38 feet with a parapet wall.
And how close to the property that you represented before is this one? I'm in between the two. How
I think
close
that
to
other
the-
address, Gary, was that 1919?
I think that was 1917. This one should be pretty much about the same as that one.
Let me go back to the aerial view. So this is 1929. You're right. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is probably 1917 right here. So where are you located?
I'm right where your cursor is.
Right there. Okay.
That's my car in the driveway.
Yeah.
So
So this.
that's really the presentation, Evan. I mean, we open the floor up for questions or comments. Wait a minute, Gary, do you have anything else to add?
No, I didn't have anything else to add. I was just gonna say this would be about the same as that. It's not gonna be any higher than that. It would probably be pretty comparable to 1917.
Okay.
Anybody has any questions, concerns, comments?
Yes, so I'm kind of confused. Are you trying to do the garage and a parking spot on this property?
No, ma'am, just a garage.
And it will match the other units that are already sitting on George Street like that?
It'll match this one at 1917.
Uh-huh.
An interior parking space and then 3 floors above.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do you have a picture of what's currently in the lot or on that space that you guys want to build on?
Yeah, it's just a vacant lot right now.
I think there were other street level photos in the presentation, but yeah, there you go.
Yep.
There you go.
So it looks like somebody are they using that for their parking spot where that car is?
Certainly appears so.
No, hey, my name is Kane. I'm one of the owners as well. That car is from the previous owner before we bought the lot.
Okay, got it. So now it's completely empty.
Yeah, now it's empty. We agreed to let the previous owner leave their car there for now until we break ground. But so the car might still be there, but it's not theirs.
Okay. Thanks.
Do you also have a refusal for rear yard?
Yes, we have a refusal for rear yard, yes. The code requirement is 7 feet and we're asking for 5 feet. Again, I hate to keep referring back to this other property that we're trying to match it with this one, the same depth.
And you're saying that one also only has a 5-foot backyard?
Yes. Correct, Gary?
That's right. That's correct.
All right, well, I just, I dropped the voting form in the chat. So that is in there. If anybody has any difficulty accessing that, please let me know.
Someone asked in the chat the requirement 7 feet versus 9 feet. That's dependent on the lot depth. So yeah, the requirement would be 7 feet, and in this case, we're asking for just the 2 additional feet to match other properties on the block and to get a more usable floor plan.
All right, if nobody has anything else. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
Are the owners planning to live in that house or are they planning to build it and then sell it?
Mr. Shaw, can you answer that?
Hey, sorry, I had trouble getting off mute. Planning on, I'm not planning on living in it myself, but Mr. Shah, Sunil might be living in it himself. It really, the project's really been delayed, so it really depends on the completion date. But the backup plan would be to sell it if no longer desires to live in it.
Okay.
Is there a tax abatement on this property?
We wouldn't get the full 10-year, but we would apply for the the late tax abatement where it starts with 9 years.
9 years?
Yeah, so it's a reduced tax abatement that was just passed by city council. If you didn't get your tax abatement in place by the end of last year, all tax abatements going forward start out with 100, then go 90%, 80%, all the way down to 0 after 10 years.
Oh, I thought it was cut in half to 5 years after December the 31st. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Evan, you want me to stop sharing my screen?
Please, thank you.
Thank you. And do you want us off the call then?
I actually have
You're,
one question, if that's all right.
Oh,
I just
Sure,
thought of.
sorry about that.
If you don't get the variance, do you have plans to build a different structure, or what would be the plan moving forwards if you don't receive your variance?
Well, we're always optimistic. Right now, there's no backup plan because all the efforts have been put into trying to get this project approved. So directly, we really don't have a backup plan right now.
all right, thank you very much. Amanda, I don't know if we have another point to get to.
So there was in the comments that we wanted to, that Miko wanted to hear from Russell. We do have 15 more minutes. So, I mean, I feel like we kind of switched around a little bit. Russell, if you're still on the line, do you want to just kind of really briefly describe the ways that we as residents, I saw you put in the chat calling the air management, but other things that we as residents can do where you have.
Sure. Thanks, Amanda. And really appreciate I've been going to community meetings in Philly for 8 or 9 years. So appreciate all the energy on this. I work for the independent nonprofit Clean Air Council. We work all across Pennsylvania. I even work a little bit in Delaware and Jersey. But we're headquartered in Philly. I'm in West Philly right now. And I do a lot of work. I really appreciated when y'all were asking the police officer about 311 earlier. I was tempted to jump in. I'm a big 311 fanatic. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. I will literally, if people email me pictures and addresses, I will make an illegal dumping complaint for you. I've been doing it for many years, and other sort of 311 related activities. So more broadly, before we get into the soil stuff, which will only take like 10 minutes, I try to be a community focused environmental advocate, and to that end, one of my biggest projects right now is trying to keep up with all the paperwork related to the Philadelphia refinery redevelopment, which is probably one of the biggest industry environmental cleanups, like even beyond Pennsylvania, maybe even like in the country. I started doing this in Kensington, where I saw, a lot of residential redevelopment on old industrial sites. And recently had a case in Bridesburg, the Philly Coke site they're trying to redevelop, and that's getting pretty interesting. So to get to what, you care about, so the first thing to think about, and I mentioned that, your right to know with the city is not going to get you anywhere. The city does not have a soil health agency. We have air management services, we have a water department, we have lots of different agencies. We do not have a soil health agency. It is completely governed by the state of Pennsylvania. And it's governed by a very specific law. Act 2 of 1995 is the state's recycling legislation. And I am not a lawyer, but I, fancy myself as pretty good at these sorts of things. And the Act 2 process is really difficult. It is technically a voluntary program. And I've been doing this for too long to mince words. But the intention of Act 2 is to exempt a developer from being sued because of an environmental hazard. It is technically referred to as a voluntary program, which is why, I heard the discussion about previous developers, looking at the soil, thinking about it, doing some testing. The state's land cleanup law is, if you're a developer and you go through it, it literally means that people can't sue you for what happens regarding contamination of the soil. But on the flip side, this developer is not going through that, as has been mentioned. So there's really not, common sense would tell you, and given the city's, vast industrial history, common sense would tell you there's more to the situation, but there's really just not, and I'll just be honest, it's an incredibly difficult situation, especially if the developer is claiming there's no contamination. And I definitely hear you when you talk about, it's something that we're talking about around the Philly refinery right now. There's a big debate about how much land they're going to remove versus how much they're going to cap. And that's what you're talking about concreting the site and, you know, trapping pollution in there. That's called the exposure pathway, is sort of some of the legal language around that. So I think the big thing, and I meant, you know, I put the air management phone number in there. There's 311's good for lots of things. It is not good for making a dust complaint. There is really only one way to go, and you have to just call air management services. And I'll tell you, it can't be something that happened yesterday. It can't be something that happened last week. You have to call them while it is happening. And, you know, just like anything else, the police or anything else, you know, you might get lucky and they come out and see the problem that you're seeing. But that's what the issue is. You can't take a picture of your dusty car from yesterday and call air management and make that complaint. You know, the goal is to, you know, to get their inspector out and witness what you're witnessing. And the exact thing you want to be looking for is it's barely a environmental issue. It's a property rights issue. And this is sort of bizarre to think about in a real world sense. Technically, nothing is supposed to leave the site. That is what the law says. And we've all seen dusty construction projects. We've all seen, you know, it's an unrealistic law. But it is a protective law, and it is something that you can advocate for. And I've heard all the discussions about, you know, community petitions and all the different, you know, I'm a very political person. I've been working on different political campaigns for 10 years. So that's what the law says. You know, their property is their property, yours is yours. Literally nothing is supposed to leave the site. So if you're seeing dust coming off the site, that's when you want to call air management services. Actually, I'll put it in the chat. I have been working with low-cost air monitors for a long time. Actually, that might be wrong. It's either, I get it confused sometimes. I think they switched it to purpleair.com. But for $250, you can buy a particulate matter monitor that I am happy to help you connect. It's a monitor that you can literally affix to your home, and it can help you make a dust complaint. It'll give you live readings. And the nice thing about the way the monitor works and the way the law works is that you know, you're not trying to get the pollution levels down to a decimal point. All you're trying to prove is that something left the property and came onto yours. And then it's a nice thing too, because you're not asking them to install fancy control technologies. The best management practice for dust is either to stop working or to wet down the area. So it's a very easy thing. If you see that it's dusty, you see they're not using water. And then that in and of itself becomes a tricky issue, because then, you know, that dust is just running with water off the site, and you can also make a water department complaint. You know, I'm a big geek about different complaints and trying to connect people with the right city agencies. So yeah, it's a really tough situation. And then the other thing to think about, and something, you know, for the community group to do, you know, they say they're not digging into the ground. And first of all, you know, it's just common sense. How could they do testing without digging into the ground? Did anybody in the neighborhood see anybody come out and do soil testing?
Yeah, they had equipment out there for a few weeks.
I did actually see them do soil testing.
Oh, I witnessed Loonston do soil samples, and I witnessed Stom do soil samples, and both Loonston and Stom took samples from different areas of the lot. The last guy that took the soil sample, he only took one soil sample in the middle of the lot. I live right across from the lot. I can see the lot. I can hear the digging and I've witnessed all three samples that were taken.
I mean, that's sort of, I don't know if that's good or bad, but at least, I mean, at least you have eyes on the thing, which I was, the reason why I bring that up is, you're going to see how deep they're digging. I mean, they might put up certain varieties of fences, different developers do different things. If they say they're not digging into the soil and you see them going 10, 20 feet deep, that's a problem. So, and like I heard the whole by right conversation and have looked at some of that paperwork, and yeah, they have all their permits. It's a matter of making sure what the permits say is actually what's happening on the site. So I don't know whether people, if they flat out said, well, we don't have to deal with this because we're not digging into the ground. I don't know how literal that was.
I think they had said they're digging a 10 by 10 foot square, and that's all they're digging.
That seems very small for such a large project.
Amanda, I don't believe that's right. Under the apartment building, there will be parking.
Well, then that means they're going to be a lot of digging.
No. I think that what it was is they said that their report showed that there was only a 10 by 10 square with contamination on it, so that they could dig on the rest of the lot, but the 10 by 10 square was where they wouldn't dig.
That's not really how that law works.
Well, I think that's what I remember from the meetings and from the reports that they told us about that we have not seen.
I mean, that could very well be, their position, but that is just not,
Well, I think that's why we're all very hesitant, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's really going to be, it's community organizing. If they say 10 by 10 area, okay, so we fix that issue. It's not that they're digging a 10 by 10 hole, they're avoiding a 10 by 10 space. Yeah, it's tough. And then with the, you're looking for even simple transparency from them about, when are you going to start construction? Those are all good things to know.
So my question for myself and our organization and community members is, can you only make a complaint if it's going onto your property, or can you make a complaint if you see dust?
If you see dust leaving their property, does not have entering your property, it's just leaving theirs.
Okay. And could we conceivably put this sort of monitor like on the fence at the playground to be able to see like if this dust is going into the playground?
The monitor has some very basic limitation. It has to be plugged in. The cord is decently long, and you can obviously, rig up other extension cords. And it also, the way that the readings are live, there has to be available wireless internet. And that's sort of like, you think of the installation as being this fancy thing. It's really just me syncing it up to your Wi-Fi. And even if the rec center has Wi-Fi, a tricky thing about that is the sensor can talk to regular password protected Wi-Fi, but it can't navigate like institutional Wi-Fi. Like if you had to like enter in a username, or I don't know if you ever tried to use the Wi-Fi on like Amtrak, you have to like click OK on Amtrak's website. Like it couldn't do anything like that, but if it's just normal password Wi-Fi, it's totally fine. I find best case, they're best set up like in and around your house, so you can make sure that it's running and plugged in. It really needs a host, is the short of it.
I'm willing to volunteer my house.
Quick question right here. Do you have any history of what this site used to be? And the second question that I have is, based on your experience, how far can these pollutants can travel once they become airborne? I think when they go mixed with water, there is only a certain distance that they can go unless they go into the waterways. But once they're airborne, how far can they go?
Yeah, that's the second part is harder. The first part is easy. It was a watch case factory, like a pocket watch case. And then at some point in the 30s or 40s, I could be getting at some point in the early 20th century, they added shoes. And I'll tell you, both those things might seem innocuous, but you know, those watch cases could have been made out of pure lead, and the chemicals they use to tan leather are pretty extreme. And you know, it's not even quite necessary to think about, you know, exactly what they were doing. Exactly what they were doing was watches and shoes. But you know, the thing to think about, this is an era before environmental anything. You could literally do whatever you wanted. You can still kind of do whatever, but this is truly an era before environmental regulation. We don't have great ones now, but we at least have some. But you know, you could literally just do whatever you wanted. And in terms of the dust traveling, it depends on so many things, how windy of a day it is, how aggressive the construction that they're doing, even, you know, the makeup of buildings around it, how wind currents move. That's a really tough question to answer. But you know, the flip side of it is, you know, you can see it. Use common sense. If you smell stuff, if you see things, the monitor is one, you know, it's obviously a fairly expensive piece of technology, but I'm happy to, you know, walk people through that. But yeah, it's a lot of eyes on the situation is really what you got to have.
So in other words, I mean, we're not kind of seeing ghosts over here. We're really, we're going to face a tough situation if this is not disclosed fully to the community. And it seems, you know, like, and I apologize for raising my voice before, but like I said, I raised my kids in this community. And one of the reasons for which my wife never sent my kids to the playground is because of that. I think Rochelle, she knows the whole story about this. Other people that have left the neighborhood knew about it. And I think, in fact, some of them left the neighborhood because of that. And somebody else mentioned gentrification. At that time, I think people just found the perfect escape to leave this contaminated area and go looking for a better way somewhere else. You know, when new people came in right now, they're pushing for this, just go, go, go. But I don't think we're thinking it through.
So just for a matter of time, we are going a couple minutes over. So I hope everyone did get a chance to kind of put their votes in. Voting will close out at the end of this night. I just wanted to thank you, Russell, for coming out and kind of giving some resource and shedding some light. And Rochelle, if you really do want one of those monitors, maybe we can talk offline and figure out a way that we can help. Maybe if the community is okay with it, using some of our funds to get some of those monitors for those really close neighbors so that we could advocate more. And I can talk with the board and we can send out kind of a poll and make sure that the community is okay with us using some of those funds for that. And we did take notes. This meeting was recorded. So for all of your neighbors who were not able to attend, please have them check out our meeting notes and the meeting in general. And if anyone has any question, concerns, comments, thoughts, want to be more involved, because again, we are only 4 people volunteering with kind of zero budget. Please reach out. We're happy to have your participation and your strengths and your skills, and we would love more and more people involved. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you, Russell, for joining us. Thank you, Evan and Raymond, for jumping in when my technology stopped working. And we will see you all next month, same time, same place. We have Zoom now, so this is going to be the link forever, so you can pass on. I made it like a bit.ly, so it's a little bit easier to remember, but it will be the same link every single month on the second Wednesday. So we hope to see you there. Please have more neighbors come involved. More voices, the better. So thank you all, and we will see you next month.
Thank you, Madam President.
Miguel, we did ask in the past. Oh yeah, you could totally get some flyers. We need to make some flyers, but yeah, we have business cards because they were just easier for me to hand out. So I have a bunch. I'm happy to bring them to you when we finally figure out a time we can meet. Miguel, I would love in-person meetings. The consensus was that that people found it more convenient to do online, but I would love to bring back some sort of hybrid model and figure out how to make that work. We did get a few spaces that are available that we can use as a space for in-person meetings, but we have to figure out how that works. It's probably looking more like the fall to figure out the logistics of how we have a in-person and virtual meeting at the same time and what that can look like. So if there's no other thoughts, questions, comments, I'm going to end this for everybody.